Alright, so this will be a quick tutorial discussing for loops within Swift. Now, if you don't already know, for loops are one of the most commonly used loops within Swift. And in this video, we'll just go over a simple for loop. Right now we have an array here, and I'll show you how a for loop iterates over the array and how it prints out. Then we'll go and look at an actual real SwiftUI project and do a for loop inside of that. Let's go ahead and dig in. So you'll see here I have an array of family with some family members actually assigned to it. So the way you use a for loop with this is you just type out for, and then from there you'll need to name a variable. And this can be anything you want. In my case, I'm just going to name it people. And then you need to say in family. And it reads pretty smoothly here, as you can see. So for people in family. So for the variable you created in the family array, what do you want to happen? And we're just going to print. And what are we going to print? We're going to print that people that we just created. So let's see what a for loop actually does. So you see over here it says it went 8 times. So that means it went through the loop 8 times. And if you count, there's 8 people inside of this array. So if you look at the bottom where it actually printed out, you'll see all 8 people as well. So went around the first time, saw brother, printed out brother. Went around the second time, saw sister, printed sister. And that's how the for loop actually works. Okay, so let's flip over and go into an actual project and see how this is done as well. All right, guys, so now we're going to go ahead and look inside of an actual SwiftUI project. The only thing I have changed here so far was the actual string. You'll see it says hello world in the beginning. I just changed it. The for loops are cool. The next thing is, if you look in the assets, you'll see I have an image of a dog, and the name of the dog is dog, all lowercase. And then I have another image of a spiral, and I named it spiral, all lowercase. Okay, and the reason why I mentioned the lowercase is whenever we're naming these, which you'll see later on, you need to make sure you name it the exact way. If you add uppercase letters, it will not work. It won't find your correct image. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make a button, and below the button we're going to have that spiral image, and on top of that we're going to have that dog. Whenever we click the button, the dog's going to do an animation. It's going to spin around in a 360. Every time you click it, it's going to spin around. All right, so let's go ahead and dig in. I'm not going to go over too many SwiftUI details in this. The only ones I'll go over is the stacks, because you need to know those kind of to understand what's going on. The rest of those will be explained in later episodes, but for now I just want you to understand the for loops. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open this up and create a VStack. Now a VStack is just a vertical stack. So anything inside of this VStack, they're going to stack up vertically. You can do an H stack as well, which will go horizontally. Makes sense, H and V. All right, inside your VStack, we want a button. So let's go ahead and add a button here. And this button, we're going to go down to action label. We're not going to make an action for it yet, but the action is just what happens whenever you click that button. All right, the text or the label is going to be what the button says. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to start, stop, actually just start spinning. All right, so now that button's going to say start spinning, and then below the V stack, we're going to add in a Z stack. And now the Z stack is similar to the V stack and the H stack, except instead of going vertically or horizontally, if you put an image and then another image, they stack up on top of each other. Z stack, okay? So I'll show you that. So now your Z stack, we're going to do one image, and we're going to say named. And like I said earlier, the spiral, make sure you spell it correctly. The next one is going to be an image, and we're going to say named dog. I hope I spelled this correctly. All right, so now let's go ahead and run this. That'll recycle that, and you'll see the dog is huge. So, but you see the button, so start spinning, then you see the pictures here, and the dog is on top of the other image like it's supposed to. But let's make that dog a little bit smaller, and you can do that by doing a dot resizable, and that'll automatically adjust that. And now you can actually access that picture and make it smaller or make it work however you want. I'm going to do this by doing a dot frame, and then I'm going to change the width and the height to 150. And then I'll leave the alignment as the center. So go ahead and run that again real quick. And you'll see now the dog is perfectly in the middle and it's a good size. I could make the spiral a little bit bigger, but for this instance, we're going to keep it the same. Okay, now I'm going to go up here to this content view, and underneath this, I'm going to add two variables. Now you're going to see at state, and it's going to look a little funky. Don't worry about that. Again, we'll go over that in a later episode, but right now, just focus on the actual variables that I'm putting in here. So one is rotated, which is a Boolean. The next one is the degrees, which is a type double, and we're setting it to 0 right now. All right. So we need to actually tell this image, hey, what you need to spin. So how do we tell this image to spin? Pretty easy. We're going to set up what's called a rotation effect, and we're going to do it with an angle. So you can reach this by an angle, and if this does not make sense, that's fine. You don't need it to make sense because we're just working on for loops in this. That's what you need to get out of this one. But you can see how it's actually working in an app, and I think that's cool to actually use it and not just learn the for loop part. All right, so with this degrees here, it needs to take in a Boolean value. So we'll go ahead and set it to false. And then if it is false, we'll set it to 100. If not, we'll set it to 0. And that's it there. The last thing we need to do is we need to... I messed up somewhere. Oh, I did these backwards. So if it is true, it's going to be 100 or it's going to be 0. All right, so that should take care of that. This next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually add in an animation. And we're going to do an ease out animation. So let's go ahead and run this. That should clear the air. And again, right now we're not doing anything because inside this action, this button action, we didn't set up anything. So now you're going to start seeing things that make sense. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a array, which I'm going to copy. I have it wrote down here. It's going to save a little bit of time. An array called count, though, and it's going to go up by 45. So this is a double, and I can go ahead and make this a little bit wider here. This is a double, because you have the periods there, and you can see it goes up 45, 90, 135. So you can see like a circle, it'll go ahead and continue all the way to 360. All right, so there's your let count. So now we're going to do a for loop, which you guys should know how to do from the beginning of this. You type in for, name this whatever you want. We're going to go ahead and name it number. Now we're going to grab that array up there. So in count. And then we got to do something with it. So in the beginning, we're just going to go ahead and print. Just like we did in the beginning of this video. Print number, okay? So what do you think is going to happen? Let's go ahead and take a look and see if you're correct. So we're going to go ahead. Oh, I can get rid of the for loops. Text is cool. We no longer need that. But we'll go ahead and click start spinning. And you'll see. If you said it was going to print out everything inside of this array, you'd be right, because that's what it's doing. It's actually iterating through this array and hitting every single point inside there. And then we just telling it to print it out. Cool. So now let's actually make use of this. And how you do this is we're going to go down here, and you see how we set a false, and then we also set a number here? We're going to change this to actually, this is rotated. So we can tell it to turn on and off with a button. So we'll do is rotated. And then instead of this 100 here, we're going to name this the degrees that we set up there. So you can see in the beginning, it's going to be false. So it's going to be 0. But once it turns true, it's going to equal this degrees, which as you can see, it's going to start with 45, then go to 90, and then keep going all the way to a circle. Okay? So inside of this actual button, we need to turn this on. So self dot is rotated, and we need to do a dot toggle. And what a toggle does is if it's off, it turns it on when you click it. If it's on, it turns it off when you click that button. So we'll do that. Then we have this array that we created. And now inside of here, after you get the number, we're going to go ahead and make this a little bit nicer. Give me some room. We're going to go ahead and do the degrees is now going to be equal to whatever we get from this number. Pretty easy. Now let's go ahead, format that a little bit nicer. And all I did just now is I did a Command A to highlight everything, and then a Control I, and that'll format your code a little bit nicer. But now let's go ahead and run this. You'll see the dog start spinning, click it, and it rotates. Click it again, it'll rotate the other way. And you can see every single time it prints this out like it's supposed to because we left that print statement in here. All right, so that's going to do it for this video, guys. Hopefully you understand for loops and what's going on in there. And I'll see you in that next video. If you do like this content, please like and subscribe because that does help out. And if you guys do have comments, leave them below and I'll get to it when I can. Thank you.